On the profile interview segment this week, I'll be speaking with the national president of PENGASSAN, who also doubles as the president of TUC. He brought us up to speed on the activities of workers in the oil and gas sector, some of the challenges they are faced with, and also solutions to them. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you so much, Sharon.
It's been a while we've had the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a very busy
period.
Yeah, lots of events. Yeah,
elections
and
all.
Coming in and all. Yeah.
And a lot has been happening in the oil and gas sector, and of course, Nigeria as a whole.
True.
We have a new government coming up.
Yeah.
But let's start with our constituency, which is the union.
Yeah.
Looking at the 21st century workplace, the drive to get decent work, would you say we are actually making progress vis-a-vis the fact that we have some companies that do not want workers to unionize?
So before I come to that, Sharon, you said something about happenings in the oil and gas industry. That's my primary constituency. And the last time we spoke, I think we were battling with the issue of crude oil theft, if you remember very well, and where we were everywhere trying to advocate on why government must do the needful. Today I'm glad to announce that the impact has been very massive, because after that street protest that we did, we also went back behind the scene and have some collaborative discussions with people that are saddled responsibility to act. And finally, they woke up to their responsibility. Security agencies, most especially, also woke up to their responsibility as well. And more so, the surveillance contract that was awarded by NNPC. So they've also been alive to their task. Thank God, today, I think we are almost getting up to 1.7 million barrels per day from a very low of about 700,000 barrels. So about 1 million barrels has been added to it. So we are quite happy because where for every extra barrel you add, you create extra job and you sustain some of the existing jobs, most especially the jobs relating to the oil and to the service sector of the oil and gas industry.
And those that wanted to leave, are they still around?
Yes.
There were some oil companies that threatened to leave.
Yes, most of them are around. Yes, most of them are still around. Most of them have resumed businesses. A lot of the pipeline, the Transfocados pipeline, the Transnational pipeline, the Brass pipeline, they have all come into functionality as of today. Yeah, you still have one or two skirmishes here and there, but largely, a lot of the terminals that were shut down as a result of oil theft, they are coming up and being functional as it is. So we are quite excited in the oil and gas industry. Then coming to your question proper on the issues relating to decent work. One of the greatest problems we have in Nigeria in terms of unionism is because we have a government that talk too much, but they don't act. So in developed world, you see government putting policies and laws in place. When they put this framework in place, they drive it through. But in Nigeria, we have all the laws, but nobody cares. If you go to some countries like Angola, countries, even Congo, I'm using Africa countries, I'm not even going to the Western world. You see in Angola, the government is even more stronger than the trade union.
We have a president-elect, we have governors-elect, we have governors that are returning to sit again to serve for another 4 years. What would be your expectation about what they should do for workers in general, especially your primary constituency, which is the oil and gas sector?
Yes. For us, our expectation is quite in the oil and gas sector. The PIA was passed a couple of years ago, about a year and precisely August 2021. So for us in the oil and gas sector, we want the full implementation of the PIA. Not you implement one path and you suspend the other path. So we want the full implementation of that act, knowing that fully implementing that act is going to open up the downstream and the midstream sector of the oil and gas economy. The reason you don't have lots of jobs today in the oil and gas is because our oil and gas is mainly concentrated in the upstream. By the time you come to the midstream, you don't have a lot of activities. You don't have a lot of gas infrastructures, but the PIA has made provisions for how this could be done. Gas Infrastructure Fund, it has set up the host community, set up a whole lot of funds that could help in bridging this gap. So all we are calling on the new government to fast-track the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act, because if that is done, the sector, in fact, will be opened up. The contribution of oil and gas to the GDP today could be tripled in the next 2, 3, 4 years if the right things are done.
I know that there are some sections of the PIA that would affect workers.
Yeah.
How prepared is PENGASSAN? How prepared is NUPENG? I know you have collaborations at one point or the other to ensure that workers are actually prepared for the new world of work, because we have green jobs and the likes.
Yes. PIA, during the public hearing, during the formulation stage, one of the things we did in collaboration with NUPENG was that we ensured that there was an instruction in the act that will forbid any company, most especially the government agencies, from laying off any worker. So as it is today, there is no casualty or layoff of workers as a result of the implementation of PIA. But we are still watching. But we believe that we can actually succeed in preventing the entire workforce, keeping them at work. But beyond that, in terms of the green energy, that is also one of the shortcomings of PIA. So PIA did not talk much more on the area of green energy or energy transition. In fact, the only area PIA now dwelled much more is the area of gas development. That is that midstream I talked about earlier. But on our path, we were all together sometime in October when in PENGASSAN we organized the PENGASSAN Week, and we talked about the energy transition and its impact in our workforce. So what we have been doing, we have been encouraging our various branches, we have been encouraging our various management to try and look at what are those skills that will be needed in the next 5, 10 years, and they should be preparing our members for that. So we have been doing that advocacy, but that we will continuously increase as we move forward.
It's a motion. It's
something
in progress.
It's a marathon. It's not a dash.
It's a long journey or a long walk.
Yeah, true.
Okay, very quickly, back to your conversation as regards the economy. We are all aware that Nigeria has faced inflation. We can't even say twice. We can't say if it's 3 times, but we know that coupled with the cash crunch, it's not been funny for many Nigerians to survive. What will be your expectation from the incoming government, or what more can still the current government do in some few weeks to ensure that Nigerians are able to live well?
Yes, I don't think the current government can still do much more because they've had about 7 years and 10 months to act, and we've not seen much impact. Instead, the economy has been plunged, down south. But what we would encourage them to do is they should stop the bleeding. They should stop the bleeding. They should stop borrowing. They should just stop. And all they should be doing now is handover. They should be writing their handover notes for the new government to come in. But I also think that when the new government comes in, the citizens, we must be vigilant. We must be active, because if you leave the government and we face the other side, they will never be responsive. So the responsiveness of any government all over the world depends on the active participation of the citizens. You could see when Donald Trump was American president, whenever he passes any presidential order that is anti-people, you see the people down the streets and they will be everywhere. So that is what we must do. We must continuously hold our government accountable. Yes, they have given us their manifesto, right? So let's take the manifesto from the president down to the state governors. Let's take their manifesto that they have given to us. Let us continuously hold them accountable to implement the manifesto that they have passed. I can tell you, and you are from the media, you know that they all have beautiful manifestos. If they can implement just 60 to 70% of that manifesto, I will tell you that we're better off for it. But a situation whereby they promise a lot and they achieve little, it is because you and I, and majority of the Nigerians, we allow them to go scot-free.
We are coming up.
Yes, we are coming up. Yes.
You can see the trend during the election.
Exactly. So let it not stop. Exactly.
Talking about fuel scarcity and the challenge of us not still having refineries work, what more can the workers do to contribute towards this development?
Sometime in 2016, so there was a template. That template was agreed that NNPC will import PMS and they will sell to the marketer at 113. 113. They will sell to the depot owners at 113, who will in turn sell to the retailer at 158.17. But what has happened over time? A lot has happened. As when this was agreed, the CBN exchange rate was somewhere around 360. The cost of renting vessels, in fact, a lot of things has happened in such a way that today NNPC is still giving it off to the depot owners at 113. But the depot owners are now saying that the markup, they can no longer sustain it. That before now, if NNPC bring the big vessel, that is called the mother vessel, the tankers, to deep offshore, they have to send the little vessels to go and bunk from them. That little vessels before now was rented at about $15 per operation. But today is about $15,000 per operation. But today is about $60,000 per operation. They're the same thing as well. Before now, they were exchanging at about, when it was $15,000, the exchange rate parallel market was around 370, 380 naira to $1. But today, not only that the price of the vessel has quadrupled, but the exchange rate has also doubled. So it's a double jeopardy. That's so that they rather keep their money in the bank and do nothing and earn interest, or take their money to buy federal government bond, rather than using it in this business that it's increasingly difficult and the profit margin has shrinking. If you remember as well, before now, the cost of diesel that has been since deregulated was around 160, as at that 2016. But today, it's about 800 naira. By the time you find that fraction, it's gone up by close to ×5. So the problem that is also there is that a truck, when they were doing that template, they factor in the cost of truck, they factor in a lot of things. But the truck that they have factored in that cost, as at that time, when you look at the cost, it was around 10 naira per liter to move from every 1 kilometer. But as it is today, it has gone up increasingly. So there's a challenge. And what could actually solve this is to address the entire issue and look at the entire logistics value chain. And in addressing that, if we still want to sell PMS at less than 200 naira, the only thing that will happen is that NNPC is giving it off today at 113. NNPC needs to start giving it off at about 20 naira. That means the subsidy that we pay today is going to double.
Issues have to be addressed like now, especially when we have a government that is transitioning. So there might be a roadmap to ensure that this is probably managed properly.
Yes, we are not against the government managing, trying to come up now. Again, because of political expediency, we were having some discussions sometime last year. But it got to a point they shy away. We started discussion again, they ran away. So what that means clearly is that the government, they didn't have the balls. Because of election, they want to look good before the populace. They want to be politically correct. So because of that, they ran away. So we are waiting. Whenever they are ready to have those conversations, I think we are fully prepared to discuss with them.
Are you assuming or projecting that Nigerians will actually have to pay more for the price of petroleum and diesel going forward? Like we are already paying.
Yes, that is the issue. So the issue now today, we are paying higher and the price is not even available, and we are not even reaping the benefit. This issue of subsidy that we have been focused on over the years is one of the reasons our exchange rate is running away today, because we don't earn any foreign exchange from crude oil sales. It's the reason that our exchange is running away. But if we must look at it holistically. If exchange is running away, we are doing nothing about it, and exchange rate is the reason you are buying table water at a higher price, the reason you are buying your clothes at a higher price, the reason you buy literally everything at a higher price, because of that exchange rate. And what is making that exchange rate run away? It could be traced and tied to the fact that NNPC is not giving CBN USD, because the oil and gas contribute over 85% of our foreign exchange earning. And that obligation is not being met today. Because they are not meeting it, CBN doesn't have much dollar to defend the naira. And the naira is plummeting. And as the naira is plummeting, it's affecting the cost of goods in the market. So we are focused on one area, but we are bleeding in some other areas. So we must put all these on the table and address them holistically. so that overall Nigerians will be better for it. Even as we are discussing, or we will discuss on the subsidy issue, on the food deregulation, what are those palliatives that you will put to ensure that average Nigerians will benefit? For example, if we can use that issue of subsidy, for example, to permanently address the problem of ASU, so that ASU will never go on strike again. We use that money to build infrastructure in Nigerian universities, but this will not be led by Nigerian government, the same old corrupt politicians. We must create a framework and a template that will work, that will deliver value to the Nigerian people.
So finally, looking at the fact that inflation has taken over the country right now, the price of goods and services keep fluctuating. There's also the issue of the national minimum wage, even though it's supposed to be reviewed, say, every 4 to 5 years, is left in the open right now. We have some state government that have made it their profession not to pay workers' salaries. What more, increase the salary? What will be your message? What will be your expectations from state government, most especially as regards the minimum wage?
Firstly, the beauty of democracy is just that our electoral system is still being, we're still operating in the medieval period. Because normally, if there is a government and a party that is not meeting the obligations of workers and also that of pensioners, you vote them out. And that is why majority of them will become so desperate. So the ballot would have been the best way. The workers would have sent out any government that is not performing. But I would advocate that government should realize that a workforce, somebody has worked for you for 30 days, and the person will go home hungry, and you expect the person to come the next day and also keep working without earning nothing. But I also think too that as labor, I think we have to collaborate much more across all the divides. We must be able to shatter those ceilings that are dividing us and come together in a collaborative manner to stand this. The first thing a governor should do is pay salary, the minimum. Pay salary and pensions. After you have done that, then you could now be doing other developmental projects, because it's in their best interest, it's in the interest of the state and the interest of the workers as well.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I quite appreciate it. Thank you.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijasan. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.